Hey everybody, this is Deji.
And Chris.
Welcome to the Lot1 Podcast. Today we're talking to Alexis Best and we're talking about the casting process, what mistakes candidates make with their submissions, and how you can get started in reality casting too. So let's get into the show. Hey everybody, welcome to the Lot1 Podcast. Today we have Alexis Best on the show, who is a casting manager. And we're going to kind of get into a lot of what that means. But before we do, Alexis, do you mind kind of going through your backstory, just giving us a little bit of who you are and where you came from?
For sure. So I was born and raised in Las Vegas, Nevada. I fell in love with filmmaking and TV in middle school. I was very into YouTube videos and social media, and I was obsessed with watching Survivor and Big Brother every week. So growing up, I knew I wanted to work in reality TV. I went to San Diego State University and graduated in 2018 with a degree in television and film with emphasis in production. From there, I was awarded an internship with the Television Academy through the Unscripted TV program.
Nice.
I started working as an intern right out of college in 2018, and I've been in the industry ever since.
Awesome. So what got you to want to be in sort of like unscripted specifically?
I only consumed unscripted. I still do. Mostly like 90% of the time I'm consuming unscripted. Yeah. So it kind of is like when you're obsessed with Disney and then you work at Disneyland, like I'm kind of just living the fantasy.
That's great.
Yeah.
So you said you grew up watching Survivor. What was your my
go-to show to watch? Yeah. Oh, God. So Big Brother was probably the number one. I still watch that every summer. Big Brother, Survivor, America's Next Top Model was a big one for me. Nice. I know it's a little controversial, but I did love it. And just growing up, I just consumed more and more and more and more. And now at the crisp age of 28, I keep a running list of all the shows I watch all year. And like I said, 90% of them are unscripted.
Nice.
That I wouldn't worry too much about the Next Top Model thing because we're around the same age, and my sister was always watching it when I was growing up, so I always got glimpses of it, or I'd watch a couple episodes with her or whatever. It was just a different time, when it was a little bit more acceptable. So
exactly.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know if it's like a Kendall or Kylie Jenner TikTok sound. It's like, it was 2016 Coachella. It was the vibe. Like, that's America's Next Top Model.
Yes. And we're young. We're just consuming what's on TV. We didn't think about it. Yeah.
Right. Like at the crisp age of 8, I really had no idea what was going on. But like, learn to smize,
Yeah.
So I do have a cool question. I've always been kind of curious about the casting process for reality shows, and like, can you sort of like kind of walk us through like what that is like what happens first and all that?
Yeah, so casting for reality TV is a lot more intense than you think, especially on the back end. So it starts with the outreach process. Basically, we're going all over social media, calling fire departments, police departments, whatever we're looking for, and being like, hey, we're casting this new show about XYZ. From there, we start booking interviews and discussing internally, like, what are we looking for the show? We book all the interviews with the casting directors, and from there, we start building an edit around those, 30-minute to 2-hour interviews. Sometimes we're calling family members to support the interviews. Sometimes we're, reaching out to friends as resources. Like, truly every show is different. This is kind of just like the skeleton. From there, we ask you for like every picture you've ever taken in your entire life, any Snapchat you have, any video, Instagram, whatever. We build an edit, basically creating you as a person. We send it off to the network. The network is like, thumbs up, gets back to us. From there, we're doing all the diligence. We're doing background checks. We're doing, sometimes medical exams, all of that kind of stuff. We're arranging travel, telling you everything you need to pack, when we're shooting, what you need to pack. And then we put you on a silver platter and deliver you to production.
Go ahead.
Oh. I was going to say, like, there's a lot of naivety when it comes to like me understanding like casting, right? I thought I knew casting because But working in independent, having to do it yourself or off the goodwill of your friends or stuff like that. Everything you just said, I was like, okay, oh, there's more. Oh, wait, there's more. Oh my gosh. I never thought about it as like, hey, here's this golden nugget. Take it, make your thing. I never thought about it that way. So like some of those details, I was like, I mean, that logically makes sense to me, but dang, that's crazy. Because I always thought like maybe production handled a part of that or whatever,
No, I mean, and casting teams can range anywhere from like 2 people to 15 people. So it could be me doing everything. We could have everything spread out. And like that 2-hour interview is just literally like a nugget of everything that goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah. Jeez.
What is your team look like on a, like, I guess on a small scale it would be you, but on like a larger scale, like what would a team look like for you?
Yeah, so a team would normally have casting assistants. That's going to be your entry level position. They're going to handle a lot of like digitizing and pulling things from social media and whatnot. From there, you have coordinator positions. Those are kind of people who would assist me as the manager. You also have casting directors and casting producers. Those are the people who are going to be actually doing the interviews. They do a lot of outreach as well. Before you get selected for like an on-screen interview, you have a phone interview. So them or the producers and associates will be doing the phone interviews. From there, you have the supervising casting producer who will be like, yep, I like this person. This person's not so hot. Not that it's all about looks, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And then from there, you'll have like the supervising casting director, the VP of casting who kind of runs the show. And then you have the big bad, not big bad, like the big great network at the top who makes all the decisions. The networks are not bad. Bad was the wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not dumb. I'm not dumb.
Yeah. So it seems like there's a lot of people that could be on this team. And so like, are there like rounds? Like you got like the first round. It's like, okay, well, you got to like sift through all the people who have like the potential to be considered. And then like, is there another round? Like what are all the, are they even called rounds?
We don't necessarily call them rounds.
Okay.
I guess in layman's terms,
yeah,
there are rounds, but like internally, we don't call them rounds. But
got it.
In theory, the first round is anyone who applies. The second round would be a phone interview. The third round would be a on-camera interview.
Nice.
The fourth round would be us putting together your edit. And the fifth round would be the network saying yes or no.
Yeah, got it.
So for those who don't really understand, when you say putting together your edit, what does that mean?
So if we are to interview you for 30 minutes, for 2 hours, for 4 hours, however long we interview you, the network doesn't have time to watch 4 hours of you flap your trap, unfortunately. So we have to kind of highlight the good parts and make it around like 2 to 10 minutes.
Wow.
Kind of like a highlight reel
of
you and your interview.
Nice. What kind of skills do you feel like you need in order to do this kind of a job?
In order to do this job, there are quite a few skills you need to have. You need to be personable. I used to be terrified of talking on the phone. Fun fact. Now I literally can call someone's granny who is not expecting my call and literally hangs up on me 3 times. And I'm like, no, wait. And she wants to have a conversation with me. So
nice.
Talking on the phone, being personable is really important. Also, just kind of knowing who has it and who doesn't. There's a certain je ne sais quoi of like just knowing who's outgoing, knowing who's right for this show, and maybe someone who's right for a different project. I think that's an important skill to have. And I think you build that by being knowledgeable about like what the show is about and watching reality TV and just understanding what pops.
Nice. That's cool. Yeah. So you don't really feel like you need a lot of like school skills, like, like a degree or anything like that. You feel like it's more of just person skills. Like, is this real life that I'm saying? Is that real words?
I mean, I'm an advocate for getting your degree because I'm an advocate for being a well-rounded filmmaker before you go into any field. Do you necessarily need a degree to do what I'm doing? No, but I think there's something to be said for someone who knows every inch of the filmmaking process as opposed to someone who can just get on the phone and talk to people. Yeah. Like, if you know how to operate a camera, if you know how to, even graphic design, like there are certain things that will put you a step above, but ultimately the minimum would be personable and know how to talk to people.
Yeah. That's awesome. Is there like a process that you have for choosing your projects, like choosing the types of things that you want to work on?
No, honestly, I will. In this time, you can't be picking
Yeah.
and choosing.
Yep. Yeah, this is true.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, I have worked on some things that were a little harder than others. There are some things that I hold near and dear to my heart, but right now, can't be picky. And truly, like, I learn something and I grow to love every project that I work on.
Yeah. Yeah. There's this this is sort of a tangential, which, this is our first tangent of the episode. So, but I noticed that you worked a lot with Bunham Murray.
Buna Murray, yeah.
Buna Murray, yeah. I never knew how to say that because I used to work with him too on like Ball in the Family, and there's another one. I think it wasn't Rich Kids of Beverly Hills that did that, was it?
I don't know, that may have
Maybe
been
not.
for me. Or sometimes there are
Okay. I think
projects
it's ITV,
that we don't cast, so I'm not super
Yeah.
familiar. Yeah.
But anyways, it's just kind of cool. When I saw it, I was like, oh, I know that office. Like I know. Anyways, so I thought that was kind of a cool.
Deji, what
cool
is
thing.
up with you on this podcast? Just somehow being 1 degree off of every single one of our guests. You've just
I don't know.
been around the block, man.
I've been doing it for a minute. I think once you're like in it, like you kind of just like somehow like it's like, oh, I know that part. Like you have a connection in some weird way.
It's a very small town for being such a large town.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. But you're not even in LA. So you're not even thinking about at the office I'm talking about.
So, okay,
Yeah.
when I graduated from San Diego State, I moved to LA. It was 20.
Okay.
And then I moved back to Vegas during COVID. So I worked in that office for like 2.5 years.
Yeah. Okay. That's close to around the time I think I moved. I think I started working there. But anyways.
I had a
Chris,
question.
Did you have a question? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I did. So has it always been reality for you? Okay, hold on. That could be taken out of context. Are you living in reality? No. Have you always chosen reality TV? Are you not interested in narrative? Are you right now you're just like, I'll do whatever's taken,
It's always been reality for me. I'm not saying I would turn down a narrative project should, I not be working on anything in the reality space, but it's always been reality for me. And like, there's a certain stigma around it where people are like, oh, reality is a stepping stone to get to narrative. And I'm like, that's not the case. Like, people actually want to work in reality.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah. So reality doesn't have to be a stepping stone. It can be your forever.
Sure.
Yeah.
What is it about reality TV that's got you like, I'm in it. I'm in it for the long run. This is my jam.
I think everyone has a unique story to tell. And it, like, you really can't write this stuff. I'm telling you, some of these things that these people say, you cannot write this stuff. There's a certain, like, even the most boring person in your entire life has some kind of backstory and has something unique they can bring to the table. And I think reality lets people into all of these different perspectives that they didn't have before. And even if that individual doesn't think that their story is unique, it is to somebody else. So I like telling other people's stories and really opening other people's eyes to what they don't see on an everyday basis.
When you have like a person who is sort of in an interview process for the casting, how do you get them to open up? Or are you sort of like looking for people who have that sort of natural, like, oh, like I never stop talking, type of thing?
There has to be an element of it that comes naturally.
Yeah.
You really can't pull it out of someone if they don't have it. Now, of course, as a casting team, we do what we can to make you feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I like to be warm with people and comfortable with people so they feel more able to open up. Like, even if that means, oh, I share something about me, now you tell me about you. But it has to be a little bit innate in order to have a shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have, when you are put at castings out, I mean, like do you call them, sorry, by the way, do you call them castings?
Casting calls.
Great. That's exactly what I thought. So, but when you put out casting calls, how many applicants do you get typically for like
really
one
ranges.
show? Okay.
It really ranges. Sometimes we're casting for something so niche. Like, we need bartenders who can juggle fire, Sometimes you get 5 people that apply.
Yeah.
And you do a dating show and there's 100,000. So it's really never the same.
How do you, so for those shows where you have 100,000, which is, I mean, it's like a kind of a crazy number to figure out how to go through even, but like how do you sort of manage that, like that number of applications? Do you have like a list, or do you have like, how do you?
Yeah, so all those applications will feed into our database. And from there, that's when we have a high volume show, we're going to have a bigger team. I would never be doing a show where there's tens of thousands of applications and it's just little old me and one other person. Like, that's not happening.
Yeah.
You can kind of tell right off the bat with an application. Now, we do read every application. We're not throwing things away. Like, we read them. But like right from the jump, you can kind of tell who is right and who might be a better fit for something else. I don't know how to explain it, but like the words will jump off the page, or like if it's something we're exactly looking for, it jumps out.
Yeah, I was
Interesting.
doom scrolling on TikTok, like literally this last week or whatever. And a lot of times I get other podcasts or other talk shows related to the industry. And I remember watching this one, and I should have written down who it was, but a casting director was talking about how, sometimes I get a lot of flack of like, oh, you don't watch the entire reel, or, oh, you don't watch the entire submission. And then she was literally like, I can tell within the first 4 seconds whether or not you are right for it or not. And I know that was probably more narrative based, but I'm sure it's similarly when you're looking at an application and the writings on it, it's very similar in the way of like, you just know. And I mean, like from my little bit of experiences doing casting for Lot1, you can kind of tell almost instantly. Like within the first, for me, it's like within the first like 10 seconds. I try to give it at least that long, but I'm like, you're not good enough. Like, no offense, but I'm sorry. I have to get through these other 20 applicants really quick,
No, that's fair. I mean, it is true. A lot of the times you can tell right off the bat, and there are certain things for certain shows that we're looking for. But, other times you really got to dig. And if someone's like, well, I don't know, it doesn't hurt to give them a phone call. We like to go above and beyond and, figure it out along the way rather than like, oh, we only called 5 people. Like, it pays more to do the work, even if it takes a little bit more effort.
I kind of want to dig into the like casting of reality. So I know there's like a big stigmatism that reality TV is not actually real, right? And there is some level of truth to that. And obviously it depends on the project and the show and what they're actually showing and stuff like that. But when you say, hey, we're casting for a reality show, I think it's pretty obvious that like, okay, a dating show, you have to cast for that. Like you're looking for couples that fit a certain thing that fit the show, right? But let's talk about like, I grew up watching a lot of like Discovery and History Channel, and like, like Deadliest Catch is something my dad always used to watch with us when we were younger, or like Gold Rush on Discovery. Those are shows that follow already pre-existing company or something. So when you say you're casting for reality, obviously it probably depends on the project. What does that mean? Do you normally just get like hey, the studio wants to make this type of reality show, cast it? Or is it more like you guys are always looking for the next big like family or whatever, and you're setting out a call of like, we're looking for people who do X, Y, and Z, and then we want to turn it into a reality show? Like, can you dig into that a little bit? Because I'm curious, so I'm sure the audience is a bit curious as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And truly, it's every scenario that you mentioned is how it all works. So sometimes a network will come to us and be like, we just want something new. So what do you guys have? And maybe we remember things from other shows. Like, for example, if we cast a dating show and someone writes in and they're like, I raise county fair pigs, and they're like the number one county fair pigs in the nation, I'd be like, oh my God, remember that county fair pig lady? And then we pitch that as a show, even though you applied for the dating show. Or that's, I would say, mostly how it works as in regards to these like spin-offs. Occasionally the networks will come to us and be like, we specifically want this. Or like, if we are just doing something a little bit more vague, like a dating show or just like a Survivor type show, and someone comes through, we'll pull it out and be like, hey, this would be really cool for its own project. So sometimes the networks will ask us for those things, and other times we'll just be like, look what we have, who wants it?
Yeah. Interesting. Do you then like, you and your team like just start putting like a pitch together for those things? Or like when you decide, like when you see the, county fair pig lady?
you have a folder on your computer that you just put it's labeled interesting people, potential future shows?
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah, I have a spreadsheet that's like, come back to this.
Interesting.
As far as like when the networks actually want to see them and preparing a pitch, that's when the casting and development team would partner up.
Got it. Okay. So how often does that happen? Like you partnering with a development team to sort of put those together?
It varies. Honestly, sometimes we find something and bring it to development. Sometimes development will be like, we want to cast this and see if anyone even fits the bill before we even sell it. So it goes both ways.
Got it. Okay. That's interesting, actually. Do you use any like casting sites? I mean, there's like, a bunch of other casting sites for narrative, and I'm sure is for reality as well. Or unscripted. Do you use any?
We use Backstage, not sponsored. We use Casting Networks, not sponsored. All casting I've used, not sponsored. But truly, social media is where it's at for me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What's the difference? Like, why do you prefer social media to these other casting sites?
Those other casting sites are filled with people who want to act and be on TV.
I see.
Like, yes, actors can fit the bill, but like, I don't want to put people on TV who just want to be on TV to be on TV.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of that, right? Like a lot of people who are just trying to get their like 10 minutes of fame.
Like, the infamous people who are like, he's here for the wrong reason. Like, yeah, because he probably is an actor, but whatever.
I want to dig into that a little bit because there is a few instances of reality shows. Love is Blind is a great example where I think it was like 2 seasons ago, because it's a guilty pleasure to watch it with my partner. 2 seasons
You can just
ago,
say pleasure. You don't have to say guilty here.
Okay, all right. A few seasons ago, I'm pretty sure there was a guy who was clearly faking it. Obviously I don't know if it was staged or if he accidentally made it all the way to the actual like taping, and then they were like, "Ooh, this is too good, we're gonna air it." But how do you sift through those types of people who are like clearly they are just wanting the fame? Because there's a level of that on especially a lot of the Netflix shows, because they so intermingle where it's like sometimes these people, this is just their job. This is what they do. They go on reality shows and they make money. So like, is that really reality? I can't really tell. How do you sift through people? Like, is there like a telltale sign that this person is in it just for the money? Like, other than the obvious things of like, they're super fake or whatever.
Honestly, I like to compare it to making a friend. If you meet someone at a bar and they're just like not your vibe and you can tell that they're too much and they just want to be around you for some reason, you're pretty, you have money, whatever, I don't know. Like, you can just catch a vibe. Like, I know that's so vague and there's no science behind that literally at all. But like, if you just get on the interview and you just catch a vibe. I don't know how to describe it. And if people are there for the wrong reasons and somehow they quote unquote made it past us, like, first of all, we're not running lie detectors. We're not detectives. Like, we're just people. I'm so sorry if people ended up on TV who are there for the wrong reasons. Like, we're just doing our job. Sorry. So you can just tell from the jump. And again, people slip through the cracks. There's no formula. When people are like, why didn't they see blah, blah, blah in a background check? Because we don't see if someone's wanting to be on TV to go to Coachella on a background check, you guys. Like, we're trying our best.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can just see like, somebody's thinking that you're in there for like 4 or 5 hours grilling this person. Like, okay, now what do you really want to be here for? And they're just like, they're sweating and they're like, you got me. I want to be famous. Yeah. You're like, got another one.
I mean, there's an element of being on TV, no matter who you are, that you want to be on TV.
Yeah.
Whether that's like your life goal or you just want to be on TV, like, you filled out the application. To some extent, you want to be on TV.
Yeah, this is true.
So I have another question. You talked about you use social media. That's kind of like your platform now. I mean, that's not unheard of. I've heard plenty of stories where, they found this person on social media. I also saw another TikTok when I was doom scrolling one night where they were talking about how some networks are starting to require there to be a certain amount of social media followers across the whole cast. So it's like, okay, across, five of these, or across the whole cast, we need 1 million followers. They need to at least have 1 million followers on X platform. I mean, obviously depends on the project. Is there a level of like, okay, this person's really good. If we got a person with 1 million followers on this side that's really good, and a person on this side that's really good, the network wants someone with a following. We have to choose the person with the following. Or are you just like, nope, I'm going straight for the best person for the role? How do you like kind of navigate that? I don't know if you want to go too deep into that.
It is more easy to be discovered on social media if you have a following. So if we are scouting people, it's going to be easier for us to find you if you have XYZ amount of followers. I have only worked on one particular project where they wanted a certain amount of followers for the show because it was for another social media platform, and they wanted to take certain social media followers from platform A and move it to platform B. I've only done that one time. Every other time, we're going to pick the person who's going to make good TV. If the person with 7 million followers is like watching paint dry, and the person who downloaded Instagram is like a superstar, we're going with the superstar. The followers don't hurt, and they make it easier to be discoverable, but they're not a shoo-in.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's mostly about what's going to make a good episode versus, what they bring to the table, quote unquote, in terms of
In my
following.
experience, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting because I do remember us talking about that before, Chris, and it's like in some way I feel like it's kind of shooting yourself in the foot because you can get somebody like you just said who's like very boring to watch, or not really bringing much talent to the table, just to get a few more people to watch the project. So
yeah, if you tune into any major reality show, like the big ones, you think the big ones, you're not seeing like influencers on it.
Yeah.
And that's not saying they wouldn't put influencers on it, because they have in the past, and there are some influencers who are incredible, and I'm like, you should do reality TV. But a lot of those people are just regular schmegular people.
Yeah. I have a question now. It's still switching up a little bit, but do you prefer to cast more like challenge shows? Because I see you have a lot of challenge shows on your resume, and you're sort of like your whatever you call it. I can't think of the word now. English is my first language. Forgive me. Or do you like more of like the shows like Love is Blind, or
Tough one. I like both. So I think when you're seeing the challenge on my resume, the challenge is on MTV and Paramount Plus. That's a show I've been very fortunate to work on the past couple seasons. That's a show I grew up watching in middle school, so I like can't even wrap my brain around that stuff. But anyway, that show is a little bit different because the cast is selected a little bit differently than us like doing an open casting call. Like these are people who are repeatedly coming on the show over and over and over again. There's a little more that goes into that because you have to kind of realize who's new and upcoming in reality TV, and what the fans want comes into play. So I like doing that because there's a sense of familiarity to me, because these people are on it every season and I know them from middle school.
Yeah.
The like shows where we're casting new people, I like as well, because like I said, like we're sharing people's stories, and it's refreshing to see new faces on TV, and you never know who's going to become like the next big thing. Like there are huge names that started on reality TV, and you never know like if one person who applied for a development project is going to be one of those celebs at some point.
Yeah. Interesting. So there's more like there's more of that familiarity, like you said, with the shows like The Challenge, but like you get more, there's like more excitement and variety with the other ones.
Yeah, like I honestly like both. Like right now I'm doing a show where we are looking for fresh faces, and before that I was doing The Challenge. So like I like interchanging them, and I like keeping it fresh.
What do you feel like is the most challenging part of your job?
Ooh, oh my God, when you call someone 100 times and they reject it 100 times.
Try to give you a job, answer.
One thing I learned early on is I have had to work on shows, or I've gotten to work on shows where you get very emotionally invested in the story. Not every show that I've worked on is like butterflies and rainbows. Sometimes I'm doing family therapy or people who have familial issues. And what has been the hardest for me at the beginning was I would hold on to all of that information. Like essentially I was acting as a therapist. People are just vomiting their trauma to you, and you're like, all right, I guess I'll put you on TV. But I
Yeah.
didn't realize that it's very important to quote unquote pass the ball. So I recommend this to anyone who's working on any show that maybe has a difficult subject matter. But one of the hardest things was keeping on to all that information and thinking that I was responsible for it. Like, it's okay to reach out to a mental health professional and like pass that along. Like, you're not going to get in trouble, or like, you don't have to bring up names or anything, but it's really important to not hold on to all that information. Like, share it with somebody else. Like, if you went to film school, you're not a therapist. You're not equipped to handle all these heavy subjects. So it's okay to reach out to somebody else and be like, hey, we talked about this and this was kind of heavy and I'd love to discuss it with a therapist or counselor or something like that. And I was fortunate to learn that early on in my career. Like, don't hold on to everything. It's just a job.
Yeah. What do you feel like is the most rewarding part of your job?
I love watching people's dreams come true. You know, like, oh, that there's nothing like calling, like that final call. Like, if the casting call has been going on for months and months and months, and these people are like, am I on? Am I on? Am I on? And you call them and you're like, congratulations, you're on the cast. And they're like, oh my God, no. There is nothing like that feeling for them and for me.
Yeah.
It's all about that moment where I'm like,
interesting.
This is what it came down to. It's incredible. It's like
That's
winning
really
the
cool.
Super Bowl, probably. I don't know, but probably.
That's really cool. That's really cool. I can totally imagine, because I love people's reactions, and I love seeing other people excited and like, you know, or scared too, but you're not scaring anybody. Like, I just love people's reactions. So I can imagine that being really cool.
It is. And like, what's also really fun is like, you know, on the back end of things, like, we know who the cast is going to be and we've interviewed all these people, and then they all meet each other. And you're like, oh my gosh, all my friends are meeting.
So how far into, like, once you've casted them, you gave them all the calls and you just talked about them meeting for the first time. So I'm assuming you're there when that happens. No, maybe no. Oh.
No, once they fly out, you know, the travel or the talent manager from that point kind of intercepts them and they fly out, or we fly out to them, or whatever the case is. And that's that. I'm on to the next project.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think that, like, because, you know, I've done a lot of like production, you know, in my years, and like, my job typically starts when the production happens, and then it's over when it's over, you know. So like the development and like the casting process for the majority of, like, you know, my production experience has been like, just like, as soon as the people arrive on set, I'm like, all right, cool, like, now my job begins. But that's like exactly when your job ends.
Exactly. And then when you're done, it goes to post. Like, we're all handing the baton. It's filmmaking is a giant relay race.
Yeah. Passing enough to the very end, and then hopefully people love it at the end. What major mistakes do you see people who are applying to be on the cast? What major mistakes do you see them making?
I could talk about this for years. So I'll just go through a couple. But the first one is they think they need to be something. Like, very commonly on shows, people think they need to be a certain archetype. You know, the surfer dude, the nerd, the villain. Like, you don't got to be all that. Like, we just want you to be a regular person. If naturally you're the surfer dude, fabulous. If naturally you are an athlete, fabulous. But don't try to be something you're not. Don't try to fit that mold. Secondly, when you fill out the application or you film your tape, like, really put your all into it. Don't just be like yes or no questions. Are you competitive? Yes. Do you like to hang out with other people? Yes. I am funny. I like to have fun. Like, no, you need to like don't go on ChatGPT. But that idea, go on ChatGPT, brainstorm something and give me something to work with beside that, like, you're funny and yes, you're competitive.
Yeah. Elaborate a little bit.
Also, if you submit a photo and I can tell that you have like the Facetune level 800 on there, like, I know you don't look like that, girl. I know you don't look like that. Okay.
Airbrush into oblivion.
You just want people to be more real because it's reality.
Right. So, you either have it or you don't for this particular show. And like, the Snapchat dog filter is not going to make you have it.
Yeah.
No way. Funny. You've gotten that?
I've gotten a lot of stuff.
Wait, actually, now that you say that, I'm not surprised. I've seen some pretty interesting photos on some of the casting sites. So,
yeah,
interesting.
So I feel like a lot of people, maybe you mentioned this before about your database, but like I feel like a lot of people don't really know that you have a database and that you're working from it all the time, or an email list. How did you get started with that? Actually, do you mind explaining? This is just random, but do you mind explaining like more about your database?
Yeah. So, as someone who works in TV and
Yeah.
casting, it is helpful to have numbers to bring to the table.
Mm-hmm.
It's essentially like another tool that I can bring. Like, yeah, I am fluent in Google Docs and Google Sheets, and I have a database, y'all. Like, it's
Yeah.
kind of just another thing to bring to the table.
Nice. Okay, so then how did you know you needed to start building that up for yourself?
With the recent lack of work going on,
Yeah.
it's important to build your arsenal of skills and your arsenal of tools and bring everything you can to the table. So, in such a competitive environment, you can show that you have all of these things. I
Mm,
want to start my own database because I want to be able to have my leads that I can now present to the networks, even if you are just great and I sell you as a show. Or if I
nice.
go onto a show and I'm like, I can tell all of these people about it. Like, there's an advantage to be on the database because you get
Hmm.
to hear about things first. You have a direct liaison through me, and there's a lot of exciting things to
Yeah.
be a part of.
How does somebody get onto that database? Because there's I'm sure tons of people want to be on TV or like like in any sort of shows that you could potentially cast for. How do they get onto that database?
For sure. So you can find my email database linked on my Instagram at Alexis B Cast. The
Nice.
database is located at tinyurl.com/AlexisBcastMe. It's just a couple simple questions. You can also find it linked on my TikTok at Alexis B Cast.
Nice. That's awesome. So you said that you hear the people on the database hear a lot of news first. What's some of that news that they hear first? What could they
So
expect?
when I pick up a new show, a lot of the times we don't start outreach until the network can approve certain things, but I am able to reach out to my team, my database, my peeps, and be like, you guys, I have something coming up, very exciting. Keep an eye on your inbox. And as soon as that, outreach material is approved, it's going to y'all first before it
Hmm.
hits socials, before it hits backstage, before it hits anything. It's going to my people first. My people.
Nice. So they have basically a direct access to get onto these shows first
Exactly.
before anybody else. They're like ahead of the line basically.
Exactly. And then you have my direct email too.
Nice. That's always nice to have.
Two questions with that. If it's not proprietary, when you say you have a database, when someone signs up for this, what is on that? Obviously, height, age, what you look like, stuff like that. But is there like, say something interesting about your life, and then there's like a small description. Like, are you willing to share that? Because any inspiring casting director or someone who wants to start, what should be on their database, essentially?
So I keep it simple because a lot of people don't want to share their info with some random lady who posted on Instagram. Fair. I wouldn't either. So I just ask for the basics, cell number, email, name, where do you live, who do you date, etc. So this way I can send the casting calls out to everybody, and if it fits you, you can reply saying, yes, pick me. And if it's not your jam, you don't have to hear from me again.
Nice.
Cool. And then second to that, you've said a couple of times that like, oh, when I work for these other companies, that's different when I do it for myself. You talk about my team, stuff like that. Are you primarily doing independent? So do companies come or production companies or studios come and find you? Are you applying to work on shows as a casting director? What does that look like? What is your normal work like?
So technically, I work freelance. So I get picked up
Mm,
show by show. I'm very fortunate that I work with the same team a lot because you build a network. And of course, you want to go into the Super Bowl with the same team that you played with all season. So I am fortunate to do that. But I also apply for jobs. If things are slow and there's nothing at the usual production companies I work for, I'm out here on Staff Me Up. I'm out here on Facebook. I'm doing the grind, Gotta pay
yeah.
those bills.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you currently casting for anything right now?
So I am casting for a new show where we are reconnecting people who want a second chance with their first love. So we're talking like elementary school crushes, high school sweethearts, college sweethearts. Some people have lost contact with these people, and I'm reaching out and finding them on Facebook and being like, hey, your high school girlfriend wants to hang out again. Are you down? And they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're still thinking about me. So yeah, currently casting that right now, and we'll see what's to come.
Interesting. So
That's
when you're doing something like that, you're saying you're reaching out. I'm assuming you don't have their contact information for all of them, right? So you're doing research to find them. So now you're an
Internet
investigator.
sleuth.
Yeah, you're
I always joke that like if casting doesn't work out, I'm gonna go be a private investigator.
yeah.
That's cool. I like that. I mean, that by doing this job, you're like developing the skills that I'm sure that's going to be beneficial in another job later down the line too.
For sure. It starts from like finding random men on dating apps in my personal life and stalking them. I'm like, oh, I can't play this.
Wait, so like almost every person who ever stalks on a dating app has the skills then? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
There you go. Have you ever had to turn a job down?
Have I ever had to turn a job down? I hate to say it. No. I mean, for like time constraints.
Nice.
Like I'm on something else, sorry. But
Yeah.
you know,
Not because it was like a bad job or like
No, I'm very fortunate that everything I've been offered is from like reputable people and like shows that I like or shows that I don't know or new things. So no, I've never turned anything down.
That's good. I mean, I don't know if I've ever turned anything down either.
Well,
I must
to be fair too, because you're so early in the process, Alexis, I feel like if you cast something and then the show goes bad because of production, you don't know that till you're way gone past that.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I guess that's true.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to turn down jobs if they come your way because you don't even know if it's a bad thing yet because it's not even made yet. So
there you go. Yeah,
that's true.
It's like, and then people are like, "You did so and so," and I'm like, "I don't know."
Yeah, that's funny.
You casted this terrible person. How did I supposed to know they're terrible? Yeah.
So this is like kind of a little bit of a more general question, I guess. But like, do you feel in what you do you feel like a shift in the industry at all? Do you feel like the things are changing out of what they used to be into something new?
100% things are changing. For one, just the amount of shows that are being picked up with streaming, like things aren't being picked up as much because you can watch season 10 of Survivor. You don't need new shows to watch.
Interesting.
So that's a major change. Also, like we used to do way more in-person casting calls back when I, was in the office and things like that. I used to love those, like literally hundreds of people coming in, talking to them, meeting all of them. Mm-hmm. Now everything is on Zoom, which is kind of like a slay because I get to wear my pajamas all day, but I do miss that aspect and the magic of like seeing all these people in person.
Yeah.
But also like you can cast a net way wider doing things virtually rather than, hey, come to this casting call.
Do you feel like you'd prefer like some sort of hybrid of that where it's like you do like in the beginning of the day you're doing all the casting calls where people come in and at the end of the night you do like everyone else that's outside of the outside of the Vegas area? It
would be nice to do something hybrid. Like I'm not pushing for it because like I said, the pajamas are a slay, but
yeah, that's true.
I do miss it. I would like to do it every once in a while.
Yeah.
Do you think that there is a benefit to in-person versus just Zoom?
Yes, I do think there is a benefit. Well, I think there's benefits to both. But the benefit to in-person is you get more of an idea of how they're going to be on camera because you're face-to-face. And yes, I guess that sounds like the opposite because you think you'd know how they're going to be on camera because they're literally on camera. But there's an element of like something missing.
It's their own environment, it's their own camera. It's not the same as someone putting a camera in your face.
Yes.
Yeah.
I understand that.
You also see them in a different, like, not that people don't go in a different position on camera, but like you see them like in a different like position that they're in. Like they can be like looking this way and then like you can see their whole body and you can like get the vibe. I'm sure it's a lot easier to do that to get the vibe.
And like when you're on Zoom, like you only have to be on for your interview for like however long the interview is. But when you're waiting for that casting call in person, like we can kind of eye around, be like, what's your body language like? Like, are you interacting with other people? Do people like you? Are you not their cup of tea? Like, what's up?
Are you like sitting alone by yourself, not talking to anybody?
Do you talk too much because there are those people.
Yeah. So the industry is changing a lot. Do you feel the industry changing because of like AI? Does AI affect you in any way? Or not
Truthfully,
really?
no.
Yeah, interesting.
It's reality, right? So it's kind of hard to...
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I guess, within the name, reality is like, it's like the opposite of AI. But
Yeah.
it just like I think sometimes there's like different tools from that is using AI that like makes your job easier, or like, you know, it makes it so where you don't have to do a lot of things that you used to do in the past, you know. I don't know if it affects you in that way at all.
Not me personally. Like there are other people around me who I've heard utilize it to their advantage, but I don't know if there's anything that I would use it for. I guess maybe like if I need to like make verbiage for a show and I don't know how to exactly phrase it, like I suppose it could help me in that regard, but like there's nothing else that I would be like, where you at, ChatGPT? Help sister
Yeah,
out.
maybe like a workflow for intakes of people submitting or something like that. Yeah, like, but even then, like, we don't need to go too far down the rabbit hole, but like, even then, like, automatic responses on email have always existed. So creating a workflow that does that for you, it's the same thing, just at a higher level capacity, essentially. So yeah, there's some benefit there, but I follow a documentarian on YouTube, and he's great, but he recently released a video of just like, you know, what does he think is going to be the things that replace? Obviously narrative is the biggest threat, but he's a documentarian, so he's like, you know, as long as I'm on set, if you have that on set role, it's going to be less things. So it's like for you, for reality, it's like, okay, at least at the moment, like it's not going to replace the actors because it has to be reality, otherwise it is not what it is, you know, it's something different.
Right. Like, I mean, fingers crossed there's not some kind of system one day that just looks at all the applications and can decide itself. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. But like, I don't think that'll ever be a thing, but who knows? Maybe I'll look back at this in 10 years and be like, so now I'm a private investigator.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, yep. Jumped industries.
Well, you got your plan B already sort of like locked in. Are you looking to expand your team at all? Like, are you ever looking for resumes, or like if somebody does want to, you know, get into casting, what do you recommend?
I have people reach out to me on LinkedIn all the time. They're like, how do I get started? I'm like, send me your resume, because occasionally, you know, the supervisor will come to me and be like, we're hiring assistants. I'm like, oh, perf. I have all these people on standby. So I will do that. If not, like there are a lot of great Facebook groups out there that are hiring casting assistants. There's certain groups on Facebook called like, I need a casting director, I need a casting producer. And all the time they're like, need a casting assistant, blah, blah, blah. People in the casting industry are really open to having people who are super green work as assistants.
Okay.
So it's a great industry to get into, especially if you just want to get your foot in the door in reality in any sense.
That's awesome. That's great. So we got to wrap up here in a little bit, but I still have these questions from our viewers. And so there's a few here. I'm going to try to pick out the best ones. You kind of talked a little bit about this before, where people are there for like the clout, and then people are there who actually want to be on the show because of what the reason of the show is. Do you know what like percentage of people are like that?
There's no percentage, you know? Like I said earlier, like if you're there for the wrong reasons, if you're an actor and you make it past all of us, mazel tov. Congratulations. You did it, okay? But like if we can spot it pretty early, you know, and if you're lying about stuff, like if you are like, oh yeah, I'm single, I'm ready to date, and then I go on your Instagram to pull photos of you and there's your girlfriend, like, gotcha. So
right.
You can only make it so far, but there's no percentage of people that slip through the cracks. You know, it's human error. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry to everyone who's disappointed.
No, I think it's less about like maybe who slipped through the cracks and more about like people that you just notice that try to come on and you're like, oh, like this person is clearly like not here for the show.
Again, it's hard to put a percentage on it. Like sometimes a person just shows up to an interview and like you just know on a phone call, they're like, oh my gosh, yeah, and when does it film and how much do we get paid and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, red flag.
Yeah, got it. Yeah. When you're casting, are there any requirements to have like a diverse like demographic?
Yes, certain networks require 50% diversity on the cast.
Oh, interesting.
Thank goodness. It's about time.
Yeah.
So, you know, when shows that I work on, I hope to exceed that. But yes, it is impressive that networks are finally implementing something to make sure that there's more of that.
That's cool. That's really cool. And then the last question is, how could somebody get involved in what you're doing? Which is kind of what we talked about a little bit before. But
Like if they want to be on a show or if they want to work in casting.
yeah, I think if they want to work in casting.
Okay, yeah, if you want to work in casting, reach out to people on social media who do casting. Like that's how you get in the door. I am a big advocate for the Television Academy internship. That's how I got my job, and I'm very fortunate. I will always give back to them because they gave so much to me. So look for internships that'll put you in the right place. But the best way, honestly, go on LinkedIn and bug casting professionals and be like, how do I get started? Join those Facebook groups. Those will help you out. And it's
Nice.
all in who you know. I know it's so corny, but it's all in who you know. So make those connections, people you went to school with, your neighbor, cousin, whoever. Just that's how you get those jobs.
Nice. Awesome. All right. Chris, your final question.
If you had one piece of advice for someone who wants to become a casting director, casting manager, what would that one piece of advice be?
One piece?
Yeah, one sentence, one quick little bit. What would that be?
Know your ish. No TV.
Mhm.
No, if you're not a reality TV person, watch a show or two. Know what kind of personality is going to stand out. Know your ish. That's it.
Nice.
Wow.
That's good.
Yeah,
I like that.
I dig that.
Well, thanks so much
Yes.
for coming on the show and giving us all this knowledge. I mean, I feel like I learned a lot of things this short amount of time. But for the people at home, where can they find you? Where can they connect with you?
So I'm on Instagram and TikTok as Alexis B Cast. That's where you can sign up for my email list. And my email list is tinyurl.com/AlexisBCastme.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, that's a wrap on today's Lot1 Podcast episode. Thank you so much to our guest, Alexis Best. If you enjoyed that episode, make sure you subscribe and follow on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcast or even watch your podcast. Huge thanks to our producer, Mina Vazirian. You rock, dude! Make sure you check us out on Instagram and TikTok at the Lot1 Podcast, and also check us out at lot1productions.com to see all the fun stuff we got going on. Okay, our film lingo of the day is hot set. Now, a hot set is a set that is currently in use for filming or needs to be left as is because filming will return there in the near future. So don't touch the props or move any of the set dressing. Hey, Chris, do we have any news from Lot1 this week?
Yeah, we are looking for more podcast guests to be interviewed. So if you work in the industry and you feel like you'd be good for the podcast, or you know someone who works in the industry who you think would be good at the podcast, go ahead and drop us a line, aka an email, at the lot1cast@gmail.com. That is the LOT1cast@gmail.com. We would love to have you on to talk about film and the industry, because that is what we do.
That's literally all we do. So, anyways, we will see you all next week.